Good morning. It is 9:02 a.m. On November 13th, 2013, and this meeting of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority Board is now in session. Just a quick housekeeping item. I was asked to kind of go over in regards to the mics, proper use of them, requested that the mics are muted when you're not speaking, or else there's a hum that comes across. You should have a panel in front of you with the current city representatives that sit at these at the days normally, and in the middle is mic muted. To speak, basically, and unmute your mic, click the middle button. It'll unmute it, and then when you're done, just mute it. Is there any questions on the mic? That's probably easiest. It applies to me as well. So just to make it cleaner and easier as we are transmitting and recording this meeting today. There's a panel right here. What about this one right here? There you go.
Oh, thank you.
You know, it's a touch panel. We're old school here, David. We're pushing the buttons on the side, and you need to touch the panel. It just, you know, I'm an A&M graduate, so I can continue to rely on that excuse. Ms. Rowe, any public comments?
No public comments at this time.
I'd also like to recognize Linda Rowe for her dedicated service to the RMA for the last several years. We appreciate everything that you've done. Linda is moving to another city department and will be leaving us. This is the last meeting that Linda will be working with us, and we certainly appreciate how dedicated and enthusiastic you have been in regards to helping us put the meetings together, the agendas, and all of your work for the RMA. So thank you very much. Item 3, adoption of minutes for the CRRMA board meeting of October 9th, 2013. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Minutes are approved. Item 4, discussion and action on board resolutions authorizing the executive director to execute the following instruments as they relate to the development of a study for a potential parking facility in downtown El Paso. A, an interlocal agreement with the El Paso Downtown Management District. B, an interlocal agreement with the City of El Paso. And C, a work authorization with the CRRMA's General Engineering Consultant. Mr. Tejas.
Raymond Tejas, Executive Director. So before you today, and I believe we discussed this very briefly at the last board meeting, before you today are 3 proposed agreements which relate to the development of a study for a potential downtown parking facility. As we've discussed in the past, the RMA has been approached on a number of occasions to either develop a study or pursue the development of a parking facility downtown. We've heard anecdotally for years that there is a need downtown. So what you see before you really is a partnership, a proposed partnership between the Camino Real RMA, the City of El Paso, and the Downtown Management District, whereby each entity would provide $20,000 for the development of a study. And that study really envisions several steps. That first one would clearly be a needs assessment to make sure that there actually is a need for additional parking. And if in fact there is a need identified, then the next steps would then be, what is that need? How many parking spaces are needed? What would a parking facility look like? And most importantly, how would that get funded? And how, for example, would we go out and issue debt based on projected revenues for that particular facility? How would all of that work? So that's really what we're envisioning through this study. So what you see before you again is the first 2 items, 4A and 4B, are the draft interlocal agreements between the Downtown Management District and the City of El Paso, and they are virtually identical. They're looking to do the same thing, which is simply provide the funding from the DMD, Downtown Management District, and the City of El Paso to the RMA so that we can pursue this. What you'll see is item 4C then is the authorization for me to execute a work authorization with our general engineering consultant. And of note, I should mention, what we're looking to do with this particular project is actually add a team member to our general engineering consultant team, and that team member would have parking experience and expertise. So our general engineering consultant has reached out to firms locally and throughout the state that have that expertise, and they're looking to add a team member. So once they do that, then we'll sit down and execute a work authorization to actually begin the study. So subject to your questions, I'm recommending approval of all three items.
Just a question. I know this study is focused on downtown, but at some point, we might consider looking at a model for a park and ride where your parking is in the suburbs and then we have transportation into the downtown area, like many of the major cities have that model. And so I know this is just focused on downtown, but it's also another solution that could work very well too, that we're just not limited to downtown facilities, but look at a park and ride type model.
And I think that I didn't mention that the real value of bringing on a team member to our general engineering consultant team is that we will have that expertise essentially in-house now. So this is a very narrow study that we're contemplating with this $60,000, which would be focused in and around the City Hall campus. But once they're on board, then clearly there's a need for an entire study of the entire downtown area in particular. So it's not just near City Hall. We're looking at south of Paisano. We're looking at other areas. The county has certain parking needs as well. So I'm particularly interested in getting these folks on board so that in addition to this study, we can also, if we find funding and perhaps partners as well, we could develop a much larger study for downtown, but then more, as you're mentioning as well, look for a much more broad-based citywide parking solution as well. You know, this all ties into what the RMA's long-term vision is, which is to provide really several components of services, which include parking. So this all works towards that.
Okay. I think that's great, and we do need to pursue that because we want a vibrant downtown, and if we can make it easy for our citizens to come downtown, that's really our ultimate goal, I think, too.
Totally. Every time I seem to come downtown, I struggle with parking. So it just, I'm real curious. And if the study determines that really there is no need, then that's the end of the program. We don't pursue it. But if the study determines there's a need, then it's figuring out where it would be placed, how it would be financed. Then there's additional steps that would come on down the road. And this is a not to exceed amount. Is that correct? So it could come in less than what we're currently planning for.
That's correct. Yes, sir. Not necessarily. This is the process that we propose to utilize because we don't have an independent revenue stream. For example, when Sun Metro developed their parking facility, they have revenue streams that can provide for it. In this particular instance, we need to determine, clearly we need to, as with all parking facilities, you need to determine whether or not there's a need. But that very next step then becomes a focus on how it's paid for. And because we don't have an independent revenue stream, we need to identify that. And just like all of the other Regional Mobility Authority projects that we have, they need to be self-sustaining. So that's why we're taking this approach.
So this would be different in that sense?
Yes.
In the past, I've asked if Sun Metro has been involved in my regulations, or will be involved in the study. And believe you had said yes.
That's correct.
Just to be sure.
Yes, Sun Metro, in fact, all of the stakeholders downtown that either own and operate parking facilities or the meters, obviously the Bridge Division, which operate the meters, downtown management, the major business owners, all of those folks are considered stakeholders.
Right.
And one of the first tasks that the consultant will have will be to reach out to the stakeholders. Of course, they need to look at existing facilities, so all of that is involved.
Okay, because there is a fine line between parking and then having parking not be effective for Sun Metro uses, but the developer will know that. The other thing is that what is the participation financially from the downtown management and our participation?
Each party, the three of us, are each contributing $20,000. So total $60,000 project cost. Downtown management $20,000, City of El Paso $20,000, and the RMA $20,000.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Item 4 is approved. Item 5, presentation, discussion, and action on the proposed marketing and outreach plan for the Loop 375 Cesar Chavez Border Highway Managed Lanes project. Mr. Tejas?
Yes, sir. So item number 5 is the marketing and outreach plan. So today, and in fact, actually going back to the last board meeting, as you'll recall, we provided to the board a presentation on the express toll lanes, the Cesar Chavez express toll lanes. Talked a little bit about the history, how we got to where we are, and how we're getting ready to open the region's first true toll road. What we heard at that board meeting from the board was an interest in what the marketing and outreach plan was. So we've worked over this last month to really refine that plan. So today we have with us part of our general engineering consultant team, which is Joe Lopez, who is part of our marketing group. And he's going to present to you all our proposed marketing and outreach plan. Now, obviously, the goal here is to outline what we propose in terms of getting the message out, and we're certainly interested in hearing input and guidance from the board. So with that, I'll ask Mr. Lopez to come up and present and provide the PowerPoint.
Good morning. Joe Lopez, and part of the marketing team and for the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. And how do I turn it on? There we go. Thank you. What we'll be presenting, what I'll be presenting, is the marketing communications plan, and I'll address some of the comments that were given last time we met in this presentation. What we'll go through is the objectives, how we looked at it, the target audience, the messaging, tactics, the actual PR implementation that we've already begun and had great response, and then an implementation flow chart, basically sharing with you timing and where where we'll be at, and where we'll be communicating all this messaging. The objectives will be to use a CRRMA brand on all communications. It's going to give us a chance to really communicate everything that the Regional Mobility Authority is doing in this community. At the same time, to communicate about the express toll lanes. We are using the label express toll lanes on everything. And the message is to communicate that we're going to go through the toll lanes, and it's a very positive as far as getting through the congestion or getting through the area around the Cesar Chavez express toll lanes. We will educate drivers on what they are, how they work, which entity obviously is responsible, how they will be billed, and I think this is very important for us to make sure that everybody understands it, and that the whole community will know hopefully before we go in and open up the toll lanes, the express toll lanes in January. The value of using the prepaid accounts and the toll tag, and there is a big advantage of doing it. The proper way to use the express toll lanes. I think one of the messaging that we've added, and I think it's very important, is that the emergency vehicles will be able to get through very quickly. So it's a great avenue to avoid any issues, any accidents that may be, and to get around from one side of the city to the other side of the city. Educate drivers on benefits to increase usage. We want to make sure that people are using them, and avoid congestion. Obviously, is one of the message. Gain time savings and ease of usage. We're going to educate the community on payment options, and again, we've already shared with you the toll tag, but also how it is monitored. People need to know that it will be monitored. The ramifications of unpaid lane usage, we'll make sure that we're communicating that through PR. Obviously, the penalties that go for unpaid usage. The best way to avoid those penalties And I think, Mr. Dominguez, that's one of the concerns you had last time, and we're going to make sure we address that, not only in English but in Spanish, and make sure that the market understands it. Encourage people to open a toll tag account and communicate the options to pay. Pay by mail, open a toll tag account, and then obviously the going in and starting a toll tag account at Ace Cash Express. It's very inexpensive, $20 to start it up with a $3 service fee. If you do it through Ace Cash, if you go through the web, it won't be a charge at all. And again, we want to make sure people are aware how to best avoid the penalties, and that is that a prepaid toll tag will be very easy.
In addition, they can also do it on the telephone. Is that correct?
Right. They can also do it on the telephone. There'll be a number that they can call. I live on the far east side, and so my wife works at the university. We're going to be using them on a regular basis. It's a no-brainer for us. We live right off of Mountwood, so get on Loop 375, go down, go around, and get on Cesar Chavez and be able to use those toll tags. I mean the toll lane, express toll lanes whenever there's congestion. We don't have to use them all the time. It's an option, and that's a message we'll be making sure that people understand. It's an option. You don't have to use them. There's 2 other lanes you can use, but I'll have a toll tag, and I'll be able to tap into it very quickly and use it. We'll be communicating locations for signing up for a prepaid account using the web page. We're in the process of working on a web page link, if you will, for explaining how it works, and it'll be both Spanish and English.
The webpage will be the Camino Real RegionalMobility.org.
Yes, you go to Camino Real, and then from there there'll be a link to, and it'll still be our webpage, but it'll take us straight into explaining how it works. You know, everything that we're talking about here will be on that webpage.
In addition, there's going to be a link to set up a toll tag online, as
Yes, sir.
I understand it.
And that link, there's 2 ways of going through it. You can go from CRRMA into the link and go through the process of reading how it works, and the link is for the toll tag. The other thing, if you are already set up in an account, there'll be another link that takes you straight into it, and you're able to just basically add on to the account once you have an account. So if I've already gone through the process, set my account up, and then then I've got an account there. I want to upload an additional $20, another $40. I can do that, and there'll be a link to make it easy and go direct to that.
And there's no service charge if you do it online.
There's no service charge online and on the phone. Mm-hmm.
Can I do other services besides add to my pay for the penalty, or what other services can I do besides add to my?
The toll tag is just the toll tag account is only just to pay for the adding to the toll tag.
Okay.
Okay. How do they pay the?
Greg Blake with Atkins. The question is, what else can you do on the NTTA website
So if
for
I
toll tag?
run over on my account and I've charged a penalty, can I pay a penalty or what? Yeah, online.
On
Right.
pay by mail, is that, I guess the
It's
question,
two-
Greg,
yeah.
is on the pay by mail invoices,
Right.
can you pay those online?
You can. So there's
Will there
we're
be a
kinda heading
link
in
to
two
the same
directions
website?
here. Yeah, the first thing Joe's talking about is the toll tag account. Once you have that and you have it tied to a credit card or a debit card, it's automatic replenishment. When you get to a $10 balance, it's going to re-up with a $20 automatically. If you choose to go to Ace Cash and set up a cashback account, you can walk into any location across El Paso, walk in and pay your service fee. I think it's a $2 service fee to transact, in the store. That's how Ace gets paid. Then you can just put down however much cash you want to load on your account. So that's how the toll tag works. To your question about what else can you do on that toll tag account online, I believe you can go through and look at your transaction history. But pretty much it's set up just to do automatic replenishment. The fines and fees for not having a tag, if you've got using a pay-by-mail account where they take a picture of your license plate and send you a bill in the mail, if you start ignoring those messages that come to you through the mail, you get your first toll bill. There's only $1 service charge that covers the mailing and processing of that toll bill. That goes for 30 days. You start to get violation notices at that point. And each step through the way, there's fines and fees added to And I think the presentation that Clayton Howe gave last month stepped through that process. At each step, what is that fine, that fee? For that one, you can go online, and there'll be a link to that pay-by-mail website. It's a landing site with our vendor that we get through CRRMA ILA, and that's MSB. When you go to that website, you can also go through there and pay the original toll bill, and you can pay those fines and fees online.
I believe you can also do that via telephone as well.
Telephone, online, and Ace Cash Express as well. So at Ace Cash Express, there's service fees associated with doing a toll bill as well. I think less than $20, you're paying a 75-cent fee at Ace Cash. Greater than $20 or $20, you're paying a $3 fee at Ace Cash to do your toll bills. And that's the pay-by-mail.
Do you have an account once you set up at ACE?
If you're using a toll tag, you do, yes.
Okay. You don't have to pay that $3 charge every time.
If you're using Ace Cash to go in and pay a toll tag account, you are going to pay the service fee each time you walk in to pay.
You're paying the $2, but you're not paying the $3.
No, I'm sorry, right. The initial $3, you don't pay that every time. You pay the $2 service fee to load your account. So the message there would be, if you're going to be a cash user and you don't have a debit or a credit card to back the account, you probably want to load your account with larger increments and less frequently to make that a lower percentage fee that you're paying.
And then there's one free location.
Yeah, with pay by mail, the ones that take a picture of your license plate, that vendor has waived the fees at Ace Cash at one location, and I believe that location's on
It's on the loop.
Alameda. Yeah, but we don't currently have that agreement with the toll tag account. You're going to pay the service fee at each location.
And these fees will be highlighted on our website through the frequently asked questions segments, and really we're trying to encourage folks to get the toll tag because it's the cheapest way to use the facility. So we'll be highlighting that through all of our literature.
Do we have a relationship with any financial services firms? Is ACE with any banks or with any financial?
No, we don't. What we're looking at right now with the toll tag, we're looking at trying to do a municipal location with the city and get an agreement in place with them so that we could and see how that works. I don't have an update for you right now on the timeline on that one, but that's definitely an option. Instead of going to Ace Cash, you might have one location with the city that you could go pay.
Any other questions for Greg?
Sure.
Thank you, Greg.
Our target audience will be East Side drivers, Mission Valley drivers, East El Paso County drivers, downtown drivers, and Central El Paso drivers. Secondary will be all other El Paso drivers and obviously the Juarez drivers. All messaging will include Spanish and English communications. Our message again will be explaining the toll tag lanes, the express toll tag lanes, how they work, how they will be charged for non-tag users, and the consequences of non-payment. We've got to explain benefits and savings of prepaid accounts. We're going to communicate in an upbeat message, and we want to be very transparent and very clear from the very beginning. People understand the whole messaging. And again, the best way to use the express toll lanes. Avoid traffic congestion, drive through Cesar Chavez quicker, 2 general purpose lanes will be continued to be non-tolled. Those are key messages that we want to communicate, but at the same time, we also want to get into convenience and saves you time. And it's the prices on a full 9-mile toll will be about 90 cents. With a minimum toll of 40 cents, which is basically going, if you don't use the whole section. There's only obviously 2 areas that you can get in and out, and that will be explained how that works specifically on the webpage. Again, messaging: toll lane users will pay a toll in exchange to use the lanes. This T will be is their logo, the toll tag people, and that will be on the website. We'll make sure people start getting used to seeing the T. And again, we'll be explaining pay by mail or the toll tag, the repercussions, and as well as the positive choice to avoid congestion. I think that's going to be very key. not only to people on Cesar Chavez, but also people on I-10 and anywhere else there may be congestion. And again, living on the east side, the last 5 years, the congestion has been tremendous. I mean, it used to start about the Yarborough Street, and congestion now starts all the way up to about East Lake, and it just starts slowing down. So this will be a great way to ease some of that congestion. Yes, sir.
In the idea, but in the messaging, putting in something about by a person participating in this toll lane, that you're going to be helping our air quality, improve our air quality. Some sort of phrasing. Is that worth mentioning?
You know what? We haven't put that in there, but I think it's a great message to put on there. So I'm writing it down right now.
Okay.
And we won't. One of the problems we have is on our TV and radio spots. They're 30 seconds.
Right.
And well, the radio spot will be 60 seconds, but we have limited time, and so there's a lot of key messaging, as you can see, that we got to communicate. Right. But I think we sure can communicate that on our public relations and our PR outreach that we're doing. But at the same time, I think there's a way to put maybe a crawl on there. On the TV spot that we can communicate that.
Yeah, because I think what I've seen in the past 5-10 years is that El Pasoans have become more aware and more active.
Yeah.
This may be a good program to put this message.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Again, I've written it down, and we'll find places to place that message. Collateral materials. All collateral materials will be bilingual. We'll have some brochures to explain how the toll tag works. At the same time, how the overall system works, the express toll lanes. We'll have those at the Ace Cash locations. At the same time, there'll be brochures that we can pass out at different locations. One of the questions that was asked last night was, will we be taking advantage of the holidays and the time period that we're going into with a lot of people at the malls? We're going to go ahead and look for locations that target that area. So I think that's a good message. I think one of the things that we're going to look at is maybe instead of putting them at the mall, that the amount of people is gigantic. We may go look at maybe a grocery store or an area like that, and where there's a Walmart that we can go in and tap into a lot of traffic. And then we'll go back to the malls, the new mall as well as Cielo Vista, and ask them if they'll give us permission to put a person in there. We'll have to relook at budget and define budget to be able to pay for the people that are at these malls.
My mind, one of the fellow board members had asked this question maybe for a different way, but if Ace is the only place, sounds like a commercial, where we can buy this toll tag, why not consider credit unions and banks, or is that a possibility?
If I could address that, I think it certainly is a possibility, and in fact, part of our plan as we roll this out. But initially, and in fact, part of the reason why we went with the toll tag, the tag out of North Texas Tollway Authority, is that they actually have access to retail locations, whereas the other tags didn't. So that's why we went with them, because they have that existing relationship not only with Ace, but I believe they're working on one with Albertsons. We're talking about establishing something with the city of El Paso, maybe the PSB. But I think all of those things, credit unions, banks, it was mentioned earlier, I think all of those ought to be part of our plan in terms of maximum outreach, because we want to make this as easy as possible for the users. So absolutely.
Lopez, I think we also need to, once you get a toll tag here in Texas, you can use, here in El Paso, you can use it anywhere in Texas, and I believe both Oklahoma and Louisiana are part of the system. So
yes.
I think that's just kind of a side note, just convenience when you're traveling. You can avoid the pay-by-mail issues in Houston or Dallas or Austin or any of the other places where we may encounter toll roads.
And if I could just touch on that one as well. Currently, this is going to be interoperable throughout the state of Texas. Now, Louisiana and Oklahoma are working with Texas to become interoperable, but we're not quite there yet. And then in the long term, national interoperability is the goal. But
Thanks.
We're getting there.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes, sir.
For the rollout, make your holiday travel smooth and easy, or quick and easy. Especially as you're at the malls and you're handing out, I'll give you credit.
Writing it down.
Statewide.
Okay. Here's exactly how the toll tags will work, the messaging, et cetera, that we'll be communicating specifically more on the web page than the actual TV and radio and newspaper ads that we'll be putting out. Again, communication by mail users, I think, will be very key. Language on invoices will be something we'll put on there, and the language will be to encourage people to convert to a prepaid alternative. And so it's already said that whenever somebody pays by mail, they get a bill in the mail. The actual bill will have some messaging to try and convert people to convert to the prepaid alternative. Some of the community outreach that we'll be doing will be obviously the news media, the paid media. We're going to have meetings with elected officials, transportation officials, service organizations, chambers of commerce, and large employers. Specifically in this area, I mean, there's a lot of the community that lives on the east side and the Mission Valley that work at the county, work at the city, and so we're gonna put a program there so we can have an educational. Kind of a a kind of an area where we can share with people that work at the city, that work at the county, and passing out brochures, because this will be a very key area for people on the east side and the Mission Valley that will be potential users. We'll be working with TV and radio, newspapers, obviously Spanish and English. We'll use press conferences for the opening in January. We are currently setting up one-on-one outreach with TV and newspaper news directors. Have already met with two of the stations. Have been very well received. In fact, one of the stations said they had two reporters that were excited about doing the story and ready to get on it. Raymond will be on Channel 9 tonight at 6:30 during their news. About a five-minute interview on explaining and the express toll lanes, how they work, the toll tags, the whole bit. And then he'll come back and do some other stories in the next 2 or 3 days. Fox is already working with us. We're reaching out to, obviously, the other stations. And we should have everything set up with the meetings with the news directors by end of next week. The newspaper, obviously, will be an area that we really are going to reach out to, so we'll be reaching out to the editor and setting up meetings with the editor and the reporter in charge of the stories. Some of the pay, we have a small budget to be able to buy some of the spots, but the budget's very small. The advantage is that we've already negotiated, and there wasn't even a negotiation. It was more of help us communicate for the good of the city this message, and the TV stations have just jumped in. They're excited about helping us. Met with all the stations already, and so they're on board. We'll be meeting with the radio stations very quickly. Our messaging should be starting about December 1st. So what we want to do is do paid messaging December 1st all the way through March and April time period.
Mr. Lopez, so there's some messaging going out. Mr. Tejas has conducted a number of interviews. So when does the official messaging start? December 1st, is that correct?
Well, the TV and radio, the paid media will start first week of December.
Okay. And my question is TxDOT's on an expedited schedule, and the express toll lanes may be open a little sooner than anticipated. How quickly does that message get out and in the community when it's out on TV? How long would it take to really get people aware of what to do and how to work with the express toll lanes?
With a combination of the media, we're doing a lot of press now, and we'll do press starting from November all the way through the end of December, leading up to the actual kickoff or big press conference. But television will start in December, first week of December. It takes about 3 to 4 weeks to at least get the message to really start sinking in. So that's why we're starting the media early, trying to get people aware of it. Raymond, you want to address the TxDOT maybe being ready early?
Well, as the chair mentioned, TxDOT has made a couple of comments about potentially turning this project over a little bit earlier than we had anticipated. But I think we're doing all that we need to do to get that message out there. So in the event that they actually turn it over prior to what they had originally said, that we'll be ready. But we don't really have any details from TxDOT yet in terms of the actual turnover date. So we're still relying on the late December, early January date.
Mr. Lopez, I believe one of the suggestions as well is the users that will be using the toll lane are the users that are using those lanes currently today. We had talked about potentially some dynamic messaging signs down there talking about get information on the express toll lanes opening at CRRMA.org. Are we looking at using some sort of dynamic messaging signs?
Yes, we're going to investigate and talk to TxDOT about some of those electronic signs they have there and try and take advantage of it. Unfortunately, on the Cesar Chavez corridor, no billboards are allowed, so we won't be able to put a billboard on there. We are putting a billboard on I-10 to communicate exactly what you're talking about, and you'll see one of the design in a little while. But we're going to reach out to TxDOT and ask if we can use their electronic signs that they have there to start communicating the message you're talking about.
Mr. Tejas, would you facilitate or help Mr. Lopez with that particular issue?
Absolutely.
I think we also discussed using some of the signage that currently exists as part of the infrastructure for the toll in regards to the current toll rates and before those toll lanes open up, using potentially some signage on those electronic rate boards.
Correct. Yes, sir.
The other place that we can entertain putting information is on the radio station, AM radio station that the TxDOT had. It was funded with MPO funds, so they give you traffic considerations. And then, but I want to ask Mr. Lopez, the signage that's coming in, will we have signs that said, once you start here and you get to this location, it'll take you X number of minutes?
You know what? No, there won't be any signs along those lines.
Okay.
Okay.
The toll price seems reasonable to me, and I'm happy about that. I think that's going to encourage people to use it. I was expecting quite a bit more. I didn't, so that's going to help. And I don't know if we need to do that. Maybe if there's a need, because I'd like to know it's going to take me 10 minutes, or if it's going to take me half an hour. That'll make me decide whether to get into the tolling or not. Is it worth my 90 cents? Thank you.
I only saw one bullet concerning the education of what our express toll lanes are going to be about. And I've gotten some questions, and people actually think that we're going to have barricades separating the lanes. And in fact, in a couple of cases, when I told them, no, there's not going to be any barricades. These lanes are just going to be marked with a solid line. They said, well, why would I want to buy a tag? So somewhere along the line, we need to educate people to understand that these are managed lanes, but they're not going to be separated, delineated from the rest of the lanes, except by a white line. Because I think people are anticipating a barricade of some sort. And then on the other one, on the tag, if it is going to be used throughout the state, is that tag affixed to the windshield, or can they take it down and, let's say, go to Dallas, rent a car, and then put it on that car?
No, it's affixed to the windshield, so it's a permanent fixture. And then when you go to Dallas, you rent a car. They have toll tags on those vehicles already. So all the rental.
Well,
No.
the other thing is that when you sign up, the toll tag, that your account will be tied into your license plate. So you can't even use the toll tag and me give it to my wife or somebody else to use it. It'll be specifically for my car, and her car will have a toll tag.
Tied to the vehicle. So if we tell people they can use it statewide, we have to make sure they understand that they have to be driving that respective car in Dallas or Houston or Lubbock or whatever, right?
Correct.
They
Yes,
just
sir.
can't take the tag off and put it on a car.
That's correct.
So the tag is married to the vehicle,
That's right.
right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think we need to make that clear before we start getting a lot of angry people, because you saw the concept of the tag being good statewide. It is if you're driving that particular car statewide.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But one of the things that, as I shared with Mr. Dominguez, that our concern right now is making sure that we communicate here, and the other message is a good message, but to me it's a secondary message. I just want to make sure that this community understands usage here in this market, and if we have time in the spot or have time in the other messaging that we're out there, that we share that with them. But again,
To use this beyond the limits of El Paso County or Cesar Chavez, that be aware there are limitations. In other words, you can use it statewide, but it's on that car.
yeah, and that's going to be part of the key message is that the toll tag account will be tied in specifically to the license plate.
Okay, good.
And like I said, I mean I know what we would be doing in our family. We'd be putting one toll tag and
Yeah, I
account
would.
and using it in between
Why not?
cars, and we got to communicate that doesn't work.
Exactly.
Each one has to have their own
Exactly.
account. Okay.
If I go to
Right,
Dallas,
and
I
actually
would take it with me, rent the car and put it on the windshield and, I mean, I paid for it already, right? So,
Right, well,
anyway.
and remember too, though, that say, for example, your family has 3 separate cars, you're going to have 3 tags, but they're all linked to the singular account. So you can link multiple.
Right, but they're married to the license plate of that respective vehicle,
That's
correct?
correct. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And then just make sure we educate people on, because this is the first time we've seen this kind of managed lane in El Paso, and people actually think that there's going to be a barricade separating the two, and I keep telling them it's not. It's really going to be based on your own good faith effort, right?
Well, and
That you'll
the
stay where you're
enforcement.
supposed to.
I mean, crossing a double white line is illegal, so
I know.
there's
but
enforcement.
Raymond, you'd be surprised how many people don't know that anymore.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
And that's, I think you're right to bring it up. I mean, that's, in fact, if I remember correctly, in our frequently asked questions section that we're developing right now, I think we delve into that. But if not, I'll make sure that we do, and we'll actually deal with it separately as well, so that it's very clear from the very beginning.
Because I just saw one bullet, that great newspaper ad explaining the express toll lanes.
Yeah,
And how they work and how to use them.
Yeah, and what you're seeing today, remember too, it's not the actual message that's going out, it's the concepts that we're going to be presenting. So the fact that it's a single bullet doesn't mean that it's downplayed, it just means that it's one of the issues that we're going to be touching on. But I hear you loud and clear, and we'll make sure that the website is very
Yeah,
clear.
you're going to get the calls, not me, Raymond.
Yes, sir.
I already gave you your cell number.
Thank you.
Joe, I think you said it earlier, but I think we need to emphasize that the tags are free. I think I saw it earlier in the presentation. But a lot of people are asking, how are we going to, do you have to pay for our tags now for all my cars? You can order as many, I think up to 5, if you're just or 4, I can't
forget
remember.
exactly.
I actually had one
believe
for
it's
my
4.
daughter in Austin, and it took 3 minutes to sign up for it online, and I had to put $20 in it. So it looked like I was paying for the tag, but the tag itself was free. The $20 was
Yeah,
the
and I just wrote, Mr. Marcus, I just wrote that down, and we'll make sure, everything we're going through right now, I'm writing it down and going back, and I'll look creative.
Okay.
And make sure that we're addressing what you said, and if not, have good rationale why we can't, okay? But
Thank
yeah,
you.
I think it's a very good point, and so I've,
Got it.
okay, I agree with you. I think the comment, Mr. Tejas made a very good comment. Let's make sure we are completely ready, because this is the first time this city has ever experienced a tolling, and we want to make sure the message is clear. We want to make sure that the message is not you have to pay on these toll lanes, and that's the only option you have. Let's make sure that people understand the other 2 lanes are still there, okay? And so all of that messaging has gone into what all those thoughts have been going on into the messaging, and we're going to go back and challenge creative all the way up to the point that they're produced, okay? One of the things that we're talking here is newspaper, and one of the things that we've addressed is we've already negotiated or talked to El Diario, and obviously we're going to use their nonprofit. We'll be using the El Paso Times also, but with El Diario, we have an opportunity to do an advertorial kind of an ad. So it looks almost like a whole article, a half page. Instead of doing a half page, it'll be a whole article. And so that would be one of the techniques we use with El Diario to communicate in an article version, and then come back with ad type of messaging also.
The text tag site to sign up for these is incredibly user-friendly. It takes 3 minutes. So perhaps you could have a live demonstration using a projected image of the site and actually fill one out for people when you're doing live presentations, just so people aren't frightened of this. It's not a hard thing to do at all.
And I would point out too, though, that we're talking about toll tag, not text tag.
I'm sorry.
Toll
Yes, I
tag
meant
is,
toll
is
tag.
just as easy.
Yeah, I did. I
I'll
meant,
mention
I'm
that, though.
confused because I've bought it in Austin, so. But,
Well, and I would recommend that you buy a toll tag
yeah.
or acquire for free.
Can I get an explanation, Ray? You mentioned something interesting about linking cars and tags and such.
So what you can do is, say a family has up to 4 vehicles, then those 4 vehicles can all be linked to a single account. So your account, when you're uploading, replenishing the funds into that account, it'll be that single account that ties to 4 separate tags. So your wife is out there using the toll road, she's pulling off of that single account, and you're just refilling it once for the 4 accounts, up to 4. Yes, sir.
Okay. And again,
Toll tags,
Correct, but
right? You're
each
talking
of
about an
these-
accounting function and that's all it is, right? 4 accounts under one. You refill one, you refill all 4, basically, right?
Correct, that's
But
right.
you
So
still
all
need
4
the city
tags are
tag.
pulling from the
Okay.
single account.
Got
Yes,
it.
sir.
well,
Thank
I think the other thing is, again, my wife and I have already talked about it, and we're gonna sign up, and I mean, the toll tag is free, as Mr. Marcus said, and the advantage is $20. I mean, it's to us, it's a no-brainer to just put $20 in the account and use it on an as-need basis. I mean, it doesn't mean that I'm going to use it every week. If the other 2 lanes are open or I-10 is open, it's not an issue. But if I see a whole bunch of congestion, I think it'll be a great opportunity to use it, and we'll make sure we communicate that message. Some of the other things that we're doing is that we'll be tying in with the TV stations, and every morning the TV stations have the traffic report, and basically they'll show text cameras and communicating how traffic is, and we'll have a banner in there reminding people about using avoiding the congestion and using the express toll lanes. Okay.
And then also when you're using the online credit or debit, I did hear you say that you start off with $20 and say you're down to $1. Did you say it would automatically fill
Yeah,
another
there's-
$20?
There's a level that you get down to, and I don't know what that level is, but there's a level that it get down to, and it'll automatically, if you have a credit card or debit card tied into it, it'll automatically replenish it. So you'll never have that situation where, or you should never have that situation where you're tapping into it and you don't have any dollars in the account anymore.
And that minimum is 10. Once it hits 10, then it automatically replenishes with 20 additional.
Okay. And
Is 20 I believe if you go to ACE, you can put in a minimum of $10, or is it 20 you have to put in at ACE?
That, I don't recall.
Okay.
They're not the 20, but I don't know if they have a minimum stop. You might be able to put what you want.
Yeah, we're not certain of that, but the FAQs and the website will have all of the details.
How do you stop the automatic debit into your card? Let's say you move out of town, or you don't need the car anymore.
You hop back online and you can unsubscribe as easily as you subscribe.
Okay,
for
do you
the
have to
account.
surrender the toll tag?
That I don't know. That's a good question. We'll find that out.
Even
No,
also
we
if
don't.
If your car is sold
No, we
and
don't.
you forget to deactivate your car, you call in, you provide proof that you sold the car,
Right.
and I believe you can get those charges refunded. So it's trying to be very user-friendly. The big thing with the website is we want to clearly identify at the outset what the best fee option is and make sure it's very transparent. If you use a physical location or if you use pay-by-mails, there are some additional fees, and clarify what those fees are. At the end of the day, it's about choice, and the community has a choice, but understanding how those fees work.
we've been working on the website for the last 2 weeks, and we internally with Atkins and with Mr. Tejas have been looking at the messaging and challenging it, and then obviously before we go live, we'll come back and ask you to look at it and give us some input. Sometimes you're communicating messaging and you may not see things that you may see, and so we want to make sure that once it's up, that we're as clear and transparent as we can be, and that we're explaining how it works, so there is no concern about, well, you never told me this or you never told me that kind of situation. The FAQs, one of the first 2 or 3 questions is specifically addressing the double lane, the double line, making sure that people know that it's that you're breaking the law by crossing it over. And all of that is addressed in the FAQs. We're already, I think, in the 3rd draft of the FAQs. One of the other things that we're thinking of every different creative way we can think of, and all the tools that we have. We've already reached out to. We'll be reaching out to the city here. They have the channel that is constantly on air, and we will get Raymond to Mr. Tejas to be on the maybe a 15-minute interview and mostly FAQs, and then that'll be running on a loop. So anytime they're not transmitting the meetings, etc., they'll be communicating, and we'll be able to address and let people know you can go to that channel and for more information above and beyond the website. Okay, and you know what? Before I get into and a little bit more, the TV stations, they've been awesome. Met with Univision, have met with KFOX, have met with KTSM and KDBC. We've met with KVIA, and they're basically saying, here's some more ideas. Tools that we may have not thought of or didn't think we could afford. I think is the better term, because the budget is small, but they're doing everything they can to get the message out, and they see the importance of it, and they're taking off their business hat and they're putting on their citizens hat and helping us. So my compliments to the TV stations. As we meet with the radio stations, I know we'll get the same kind of situation. In fact, we're going to talk to some of the disc jockeys and hopefully get them so educated that they'll be talking about it for not just when the spots run, but they'll be talking it on the air in the morning and have kind of a between maybe 2 disc jockeys that are talking to each other and talking about how it works, etc. So they'll be communicating above and beyond the radio spots. Obviously, I have here buy one get one free. It's going to be more than buy one get one free. We're going to get so many PSAs that I am surprised, because we've been in this business for quite a while, and the response from the stations has been awesome. This is a rough draft of the first billboard design that we're communicating, and thank you. And congestion. Use the Cesar Chavez express toll lanes. And one of the questions was asked, is this a negative? And you know what? Unfortunately, congestion is a negative, and we'll try and challenge it and find a better way to be a little bit more positive about and not be more positive. I think me as on I-10, I'm driving I-10 or I'm driving Cesar Chavez and I see congestion. I want a solution, and the express toll lanes will be solution. So our thing is not to be negative here, but more to communicate a problem, an issue, and a solution. And so the solution will be the Cesar Chavez express toll lanes.
I like the signage, but I believe for more information, the CRRMA.org needs to be larger. That's going to be one of the main portals for all the FAQ, in addition to sign up for toll tags, which is the most cost-effective option. So I want to make it super clear that when people see congestion, they also see the solution is going to the CRRMA.org, signing up for a toll tag, and using the express toll lanes on Cesar Chavez.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Sorry, I'd also comment, I think I shared this with Mr. Tejas, is that if we're going to be using the toll tags in other projects as well, maybe even parking or bridge, that we have something that's prominent. So anytime you see the T, maybe whatever we decide to use, it's on the parking garage, so that should be prominent everywhere. So you identify that as the toll, and we need some iconic figure or symbol that says toll, and whether or not you're using that to park in a parking lot or across a bridge. I think that's something that we need to figure out what that piece is, and it should be used everywhere, every time we're using it.
And I think that's a very good message. The advantage we have is that the entity toll tag is an actual brand with the registered, the trademark, et cetera. And the T, the circle that you saw, is that actual brand that they use. So that's what we'll be having to use as far as the brand. We'll just make sure that that again, like you're saying, with it, wherever they see that logo or that brand, they'll realize, and there'll be an explanation that you can use your toll tag for that toll tag account for that issue. So we're thinking the same thing, okay, but we'll make sure we communicate it. Thinking versus communicating, there's a gap, so we'll make sure we do that, okay?
I'd like to see, congestion is fine, but people don't speak like that. They say, I'm stuck in traffic. They don't, I don't say there's congestion. I say I'm stuck in traffic. So maybe a question like that, the way that people speak. And then even though I personally would like to see CRRMA.org, that's really difficult to read when you're driving by and when there's no context to it. So maybe we may think of another website address just for people to access us for questions, just for the toll information, something which is what Susan was relating to. How are people going to access us that's related to the RMA, but that is quick and easily identifiable, that links to our website?
And Ms. Holguin, I think I've wrote down stuck in traffic. We'll go back and I'll have the art department look at it. Our concern right now is, as you can tell, is copy, making sure it's not copy heavy. That we had a longer message and it wasn't working because once you're up there, you have like 3-5 seconds to see it on the billboard. So we want to make sure we do it. So we'll go back and look at it both ways and see if it works.
But and even more important than the headline is the website address.
No, and that I was going to address that. I think the website, we can make it, we can address what Mr. McLaughlin has done. I went to artists and asked him, we met once before and he asked us to put it on there larger than it was before. I'm going to go back and ask our department to make it even larger to fulfill that, and putting on the toll tag, the T, until we educate the community on what that T means. I think it'll just be a T up there.
Yeah.
So I think as we go through the process, I agree with you. But right now, I think CRRMA.org, there's a way to put it on there and make it more visual.
And I'm not sure if making it larger is going to solve the problem, I think is what I'm saying.
No,
I think we may need to change it entirely.
Like a tollelp.org or something that links right to our website.
Or something simple like fast. Go EP. I mean, something just so simple that people relate to, that then links to our site, and that's where we get our message across.
So then would the...
That a billboard is not the place to introduce who we are to the public. We're just trying to get the toll information out to them at that point.
So then the user would type in Go EP or whatever it is.
Fast
and then
EP.
What that website?
Vámonos EP. I mean,
address,
I'm going, but something along those lines.
But
yes.
then the address that you type in goes to CRRMA.org. Mm-hmm. So you don't have a new website. It's just
right to the
address.
toll
Bingo.
page. Right to wherever our toll information, whatever page, not to the main page, but right to the page where our toll
Yep.
information is.
Okay. Sure.
Mm-hmm. And that can be done because what we'll do is we basically will buy the domain and then get the domain to go straight into it. Okay. I wrote it down. Good comment.
Good.
I'm going to have to start paying you now.
Yeah, she wants some royalties off of this. Mr. Lopez,
You know what? The good thing is I'll get her first toll account.
there you go. Raymond, or perhaps the chair, I don't know what the budget is, but is our budget sufficient, or do we have options if it's not? Or are we basically, this number is finite and that's all we can spend?
No, I think we have an ample budget. In fact, I
Well,
would
not
argue
what the
with,
expert is calling
with
it.
Mr. Lopez's comments. I think we've got a good-sized budget for what we're trying to do, and I'm comfortable with it.
But if we don't?
if we're not covering what you're looking for, then we can add to it, certainly.
Okay.
But I believe we're covering everything we need to. and I
Right,
think
but
we've
if
got
something
we've got an
surfaces
appropriate
where it's
budget.
not enough and we're not getting the message across, there are funds there to increase the budget to get us to where we need to be.
Yes,
Okay, because this is very important.
absolutely, and that's
so-
why I really do disagree with the comment that it's a small budget. It's not. It's an appropriate
Well, I don't know what it
budget
is,
for
so
what we're
I
doing.
couldn't tell you.
And it's at the
looked
board's discretion. If you feel like the message is not getting out,
Absolutely.
then we need to work with Mr. Tejas, direct him to increase the budget and work more. So I've seen this a couple times. I think it's fairly comprehensive. There's more coming up in regards to educating city employees, county employees, which are a large number of downtown employees. So the main thing is, I believe, let's get it kicked off. And then if you're not hearing it, you're not seeing it, or you're getting a ton of contradictory information, then bring that back and let's see what we need to do to correct it.
Good.
Mr. Lopez, are we discussing only one billboard? Or a couple of billboards coming and going?
The billboard that we've been able to obtain is a billboard right where Barnes and Nobles used to be on Hawkins and I-10. And what we're trying to do is communicate specifically when that congestion is. At the same time, the traffic count is pretty high at that area, because we could have put something before, could put something after, but a lot of some of the heaviest areas for traffic count is between the McRae and the Bassett area. So we were looking for a billboard there, and obviously that we could afford. Billboard, we got a great price on the billboard, and the other thing is it just stands out by itself. There's not a lot of buildings and other things that get in the way. So it's a very good, prominent board. But we only have one board right now.
Yeah, because it seems to me we should be advertising on Loop 375, Joe Battle. Because you mentioned about the east coming in. That's one of our targets.
Yeah, and Loop 375 and Joe Battle, I think, would be again somebody that lives there. But most of us will end up in that area sooner or later. We'll end up on I-10, and so whether I'm using it to get to work or I'm using it to go to Cielo Vista, I will see that billboard, and so that's the reason it was addressed. We'll look at re-looking at some of the budget and putting it. Looking at billboards on Loop 375, there is an area that does not allow any billboards off of Cesar Chavez. So I think it stops around the Alameda. Loop 375 area is where the last billboard that I'm aware of that's there. From then on, I think there's a moratorium or something on not putting any billboards on Cesar Chavez. Okay. Again, the website, we're working on it. We want to make sure that when it's up, it's ready and not only working, but I think the messaging is going to be very key. The city IT people have been awesome, and we'll make sure that we get them something that we will design it, and then they'll help us put it up. But again, we're already into I think it's like the third draft, and making sure that we're addressing it with FAQs and the splash page and all the other pages that are part of this website in itself. Okay. We'll also have messaging there that communicates not only the payment, but there'll be the T that we're talking about, where people can go specifically to that toll tag brand and go into the toll tag website and be able to sign up. We're also looking at updating the CRRMA Facebook page, tapping into some of the there's people in the community that have and organizations that have 5,000 followers, 3,000 followers, etc. on Facebook or friends, and so we're gonna ask them to help us and become our friends, and that way we can tap into their social media network and just take advantage of everybody's social media network that they have out there, not just ours. The comment was financial institutions. Are we working with financial institutions? I think that's a good idea for us to go out there and see if we can tap into their friends on their Facebooks and find some way to link up and take advantage of all the financial institutions, especially the GECU that has a Facebook, and I think a lot of people have friended it. PR implementation, I think I've already touched base a little bit on it. You may get tired of Mr. Tejas' face after a while, because he's going to be out there for over and over. We've already started. Again, he'll be on there today. Pretty soon he'll be asking for timeout, because we're looking at getting him on TV stations the next 2 or 3 weeks over and over and over. We'll address it this month. We'll come back and find different angles to ask the stations to do more interviews. Obviously, the newspaper will be very, very important, and we'll make sure that the El Paso Times, El Paso Inc., we reached out to them and asked for FAQs with them, where they basically do an interview with Raymond and go over some of these questions. But I think the two papers are, well, three papers, including El Diario, are very, very important to this whole messaging. So above and beyond the buying of the media that we will have, we will also go and sit down with the reporters and the news editors and ask them for some help. And again, we've gone to the TV stations, and they've been so awesome as far as giving us additional options and tools that they can use to help us communicate, and we'll ask the newspapers to do the same thing with us.
As Mr. Lopez mentioned, Mr. Tejas is going to be busy. If you'd be interested in participating in some of these interviews or assisting with some of those or working with Raymond on those, please let him know, and I'm sure he'd be glad to share kind of the workload as he's going to be very busy the next 4 to 6 weeks with the activity here.
Mr. Adame, I think you would be awesome for this. Just kidding.
That's why you got a haircut, eh, Raymond? I was wondering what drove you to cut those golden locks.
So the process is not just to go get interviews, but we have started and sat down with either assignments editors and reporters or news directors and the appropriate reporter. It's more of, let us just sit down and explain to you how it works, give you a chance to ask us questions or ask Raymond Tejas questions. We'll be providing them an FAQ sheet as well as a flyer that explains how it works, similar to the brochure that we're going to be putting in the stores. In addition, we will be leaving a CD that has a animation of the actual toll lanes. I think that animation will explain what you were talking about, Mr. Adame, is, that there are no barriers, there are no little booths that we used, some of us that are used to the old tolls that you go into the booth and pay, they're not there. But we also will be making sure that we communicate that there are cameras that are taking pictures of everybody. They use not pictures of the people, but their license plates as they go through the lanes, and hopefully get the media to also explain the double lanes. And the fact that once you're in there, you can't cross in, and you can't be basically weaving in and out, because that in itself is a traffic violation. We'll be asking the media not just to do one story, but hopefully do 2 or 3 stories explaining different elements of the express toll lanes. We'll put them on shows like KBNA has a Spanish station, has a radio station, has a talk show, community show at 9 o'clock on Sundays. We'll ask somebody from with Mr. Tejas or somebody from the board to go in and talk about it. There's some. We'll also ask. Univision has a show in the afternoon that they'll take calls, and so we may ask several of you to help us take some. We basically man phones, and they'll have somebody during the news or 5 o'clock news that will explain how it works, explain what were the express toll lanes, and then if there's any questions, people will be able to call in on their kind of a little miniature phone bank that they do for the next 2 hours. So we'll be using that as a tool also to get the message out. One-on-one meetings. Mr. Tejas is setting up one-on-one meetings with not only all city reps and the mayor and obviously the staff, but specifically the reps that are going to be affected. Representative Acosta, Representative Holguin, Representative Romero, and anybody that will be affected, and even Representative No, since he's and Limon, that they are not only in that area but also Loop 375, and Representative No, who is in my district, would be somebody that needs to know how it works, etc. At the same time, Acosta and Limon, they will be getting the calls. They will be the ones that people will be asking, so how does it work? Or I have some issues I don't understand. And so we want to make sure that not only they themselves understand it and give them kind of a little sheet, FAQ kind of a sheet so they can answer, but their staffs, make sure that the staff take a lot of the calls and make sure that they are very well versed on how it works. We'll do a PowerPoint presentation in City Hall, in City Council during December, and again walk through and explain a lot of the things that you've seen before in prior meetings. We'll have like I said, a leave behind flyer. We'll be out, and this is where again the board can help at some of the City Council community meetings that they have, and we're trying to get on their schedule to do that and make sure that we're reaching out during their meetings that they have in the community.
Mr. Lopez, I believe they also have email lists and newsletters that are sent out. Perhaps you could design something and present it to the city representatives, and if they thought it'd be useful information, Spanish, English, that they could send out to their constituents either as part of their newsletter or as a separate piece. That could be one more way to address the constituents directly.
Yeah, and in fact, it's a very good point, because we will be putting kind of an email newsletter type of, and it's not a newsletter, but it's actual kind of a brochure, email brochure that we'll be sending out to asking the chambers to send out to all their lists and get the message out, and so we can use that same type of messaging and get City Council reps.
How quickly will some of that be ready? The various brochures or the various marketing pieces. How quick are those?
Our focus was to get everything ready before the end of the month. Okay, and what's taking time? It's designed. I think more than anything else, taking time. We're just wanting to make sure that we're challenging it over and over and over, and making sure that we're explaining everything. In fact, I've got a whole bunch of notes from what you've said here, and I want to make sure we incorporate those comments into what we're going to put out. But
and Mr. Tejas, if there's a couple of pieces that are ready early, perhaps you could email those to the board and just solicit comment from the board
Absolutely.
In that fashion.
Yes, sir.
Also, in regards to communicating with, I believe the city has somewhere around 5,000 or 6,000 employees utilizing the city, talking to them about potentially on their website linking to ours or information out to the actual city employees that may be using the Cesar Chavez Express toll lanes, as well as the county. I know we're going to be presenting both to City Council and county commissioners, but actually requesting that we be able to present something directly for their employees, either that they can email to their employees or part of their communication on their intranets or internal sites.
okay, written down. Same process that we're going with City Council. It will be the same process that we'll be doing with county commissioners, meeting with individual commissioners in the area, Commissioner Lewis, Commissioner Perez, et cetera, that address that area. All commissioners, and then going in and the judge, obviously, and then going in and talking to and presenting at a December county commissioner meeting. So they are also aware of what's going on and have a chance to ask questions. Chamber outreach, I think, will be very important. Hispanic Chamber and the greater Chamber. This will be done in December. We're looking for some of their venues that and I say December, it'll be November and December. Some of their venues where we can, their social mixers and some of their meetings that they have that we can get on their agenda and be able to present and communicate to them, communicate to their membership as far as how the express lanes work. Coordination with the government, again, will be in coordination with the police department, the city of El Paso, municipal courts, the county justice of the peace, the city of El Paso bridge departments, and then we'll be looking at future coordination with fire department, public safety, Department of Public Safety, the sheriff's office, all emergency management offices, U.S. Marshals, downtown management district. All of those will be messaging that we'll be sending out, and I think your idea of using their list, email list, will be to communicate with the email brochure. I think will be a good tool to use here also. Yes, sir?
You mentioned about coordinating with large employees, employers,
Mm-hmm.
I would think in the Paso Electric or, gas company, any one of those
School districts.
school districts.
The hospitals.
Noted. Okay. And here, what you have is a flow chart, calendar of when the events. Obviously, you can see that we're creating all the PR. We've started already in November. We'll be going all the way through December. PR will be, there'll be a kickoff in January, but PR will continue. We won't stop at the kickoff. We will continue to get our message out over and over and over. We want to make sure that we address any things that pop up, any questions pop up in the future that we think we may have addressed, and all of a sudden the questions are popping up, then we'll go back and address them and identify vehicles to get that message out. The television and radio starts in December. We're in the midst of final creative texting and designing, et cetera, for final approval, and then we'll start producing this month. And by the first week of December, we'll be on the air with television and radio. Billboard goes up in January because that's when all the traffic will, that's when the toll lanes express toll lanes will be open, and that's when we're scheduled to have the billboard. We looked at putting it up in December, but we thought it was premature based on the fact that the express toll lanes still weren't open. And so we're going to wait until the express toll lanes are open, which is right now scheduled for January.
I think you're okay with opening it early, especially in light of the fact that we want to get in front of this. So I think you may want to go back and look at potentially opening it in December.
The billboard?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd rather have it opened sooner than later. I really liked Ms. Holguin's idea in regards to a unique website. The other thing I'd ask you, Mr. Lopez, is we've given you a lot of feedback, and I apologize, it's all been kind of verbal. I know you've taken a lot of notes, and Mr. Tejas has as well. Mr. Tejas, if you could kind of synthesize that at the end of this meeting, tomorrow, the next day, and just kind of send it out to the board just to make sure we've gotten everything across. Obviously, the board wants to make sure that this is a very transparent process, that the information's out there, that we're very clear on how they operate, what the fees are, and really getting in front of the information. So if you could help synthesize what we talked about today, send that back out, maybe in regards to an updated PowerPoint or something along those lines, so we're out on the right foot right out of the gate.
Yes, sir. Will do.
You is also just informing your counterparts at the city of Juarez. I'm sure they're aware, but
Certainly.
And to address that, we are buying some radio, one of the number one Spanish radio station, to make sure we're communicating to the market, as well as purchasing El Diario newspaper ads in there. Okay. I won't go through the creative, but you do have the creative there for you to look at, give us some comments, et cetera. Any other comments or questions at this point?
I appreciate how comprehensive it is, Mr. Lopez. You've put a lot of work into this. I like what you've done, and I appreciate your help in getting the messaging out. And I'm sure Mr. Lopez appreciates any other final comments that the board may have.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. That was a lively discussion. I appreciate how engaged the board was, as always. I believe we gave Mr. Lopez some good feedback. And the big key is something this important for us. We want to make sure that right out of the gate, it's outright, the information's there. I'd rather over-communicate than under-communicate, and I think that's what the intention is here today. Is there any action in regards to item 5?
No,
Mr.
sir.
Tejas? Item 6, discussion and action on a board resolution to waive the CRRMA's ability to rescind the exercise of its right to operate the Loop 375 Cesar Chavez Border Highway Managed Lanes project. Mr. Tejas.
So as you'll note from the prior item, and in fact the item after this, We are in the final stages of preparation for the opening of the express toll lanes, of course. So what you see before you here is item 6 is a resolution, and in fact, actually going back in time, if you'll recall, whenever there's a toll facility that is being pursued in a region within the state of Texas, you have essentially what's referred to as primacy rights. And what that there's several statutes that come into play, which basically say when a toll road is being pursued in a particular area that includes a regional mobility authority within that area, then the regional mobility authority has essentially the first right of refusal to develop that toll project, and that's referred to commonly as primacy. So what happens then is that the regional mobility authority in that area has to exercise primacy, which essentially says that the RMA is going to develop, construct, operate, and maintain that facility. So as you'll recall, back in 2011, the Camino Real RMA exercised primacy for the Cesar Chavez Managed Lanes project, which is now the express toll lanes that we've been talking about today. So we did exercise primacy, but if you'll also recall, back in 2011, we actually exercised conditional primacy. And what that essentially means is that although we exercised primacy and we were going to develop the project, we also reserved a right to essentially opt out of the project if, for example, while we were doing due diligence over the period between 2011 and opening, if we realized that the project wasn't going to work, we couldn't fund it, we couldn't design it, or some other issues came up. So we reserved that right. And so what you see before you today is another in the box, in the check boxes that we have to go through as we go forward to actually open the managed lanes. And this one is to essentially waive the right to rescind the prior exercise of its option to operate the managed lanes. So I hope I've made that clear. It's a little bit of a muddied process, but this is in essence a technical sort of a procedural step that we have to take the next steps, which, for example, a particularly important one is to access the $9.4 million in loan funds that we have for the operation and maintenance of the project in the early years. So this is one of the steps we have to take in order to access those funds.
So it's a really nice position for the RMA, basically to ensure that the project was going to be completed, viable, ready to go. And so, as Mr. Tejas mentioned, just checking the box. Any questions?
I do. What led us to this point? My memory is a little bit vague, but if I remember correctly, we were placed in a position that it was determined that we couldn't meet the deadlines, or TxDOT could. I couldn't remember exactly.
No, if you're referring to why we exercise conditional primacy,
No, why is it that we would want to rescind our primacy in this project?
no.
Rescinding primacy, what we're going is we are accepting primacy. The primacy that we have on the particular on this project is conditional primacy, which allows us to rescind primacy. We are basically going to waive that conditional primacy and accept primacy today, providing the board so chooses on this particular project.
Thank you.
And
Thank
Mr.
you.
Dominguez, I think, Mr. Dominguez, you may be referring to Border Highway West, where we actually waived primacy. So we're not developing that one. TxDOT is. So I think that's what you're thinking of. So we actually, yes, we got it.
We need to clarify the language here in item 6. Basically, what we are doing is we are exercising full primacy on the project. We're waiving conditional privacy and exercising primacy.
Well, actually, we're not. If you look at the backup item, the attorneys drafted the actual action. So I'll read that into the record so that it's extremely clear. So now, therefore, be it resolved by the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority that the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority hereby waives its right to rescind the prior exercise of its option to operate the Loop 375 Cesar Chavez Border Highway Managed Lanes project, and that the Executive Director be authorized to take any such acts necessary to implement the directives provided herein, including, without limitation, the delivery to TxDOT of a written waiver of the CRRMA's right to rescind the option. So that's exactly what we're doing. So I believe for the record we should be clear.
So our waiver is that we're rescinding our right to waive primacy.
That's correct. So remember, we exercise primacy. So all we're doing here now is waiving that option.
To rescind.
Correct.
So we can actually take privacy.
We already took primacy.
Wow.
Move to approve.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion number 6 is approved. Yes, sir.
Is the two-day agreement on the Border Highway West?
Yes, we've waived primacy. However, as we mentioned at that time, there's probably a number of ways that we could get back into the project. So we're talking to TxDOT and seeing if there isn't a role for us on Border Highway West. Yes, sir.
Item 7, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the executive director to execute an interlocal agreement and related instruments necessary to join the Texas Municipal League Joint Self-Insurance Fund. And I believe this item relates to the insurance on the Cesar Chavez Express toll lanes. Mr. Tejas?
That's correct. So what we're looking at, in fact, today we have with us Mr. Mark Body from Texas Municipal League, and I'm going to ask him to come up and briefly provide a summary to you in terms of the coverage that we're looking for. The coverages that we're asking for will amount to annual contributions on the RMA's part of a little over $11,000. And that is in line with other regional mobility authorities. The one unique item that we've got here with us is flood and earthquake coverage, which I believe Northeast Texas RMA includes. But we are including, I'm recommending that we include it here. It's a minimal amount, $4,900 per year. But because of the location of our toll roads, which is adjacent to the river, we feel that it's a useful coverage. So with that, I'll ask Mr. Body to provide you with a summary of the proposal.
Morning. Mark Body, TML Risk Pool. We were asked to provide a proposal for the various liability and property coverages that would protect the RMA once it is up and running. Exposure data was obtained, and underwriting prepared a proposal with various liability and property limit and deductible options, which you have before you. It has been recommended that the liability coverages, general liability, for example, a limit of $3 million per occurrence, $10 million annual aggregate. Of course, your general liability is your third-party liability, protects you for property damage and bodily injury to third parties. The annual cost is $740. Errors and omissions liability is recommended with a $1 million for each wrongful act, $2 million per annual aggregate, with a $1 million deductible. The annual contribution, $1,281. Hired and non-owned auto liability. While we realize there are no vehicles owned by the RMA, this hired and non-owned protects yourselves, board members, if you're driving your personal vehicle and you're involved in an accident while you are on RMA business and the RMA is sued, we would defend you in that circumstance. If you're driving your personal vehicle on RMA business and you're involved in an accident, the damages are such that your personal insurance, which would be primary, is insufficient, then we would be secondary coverage to protect both you as well as the RMA. Very, very cheap. $1 million coverage is $60 per year. Auto med pay, $25,000 is automatically included. And then we have a real and personal property schedule. Property schedule that is slightly over $14 million, $25,000 deductible, the annual contribution, $4,308, and the flood and earthquake that Mr. Tejas mentioned with a $25,000 deductible, that's an additional $4,903. So the total annual contribution is $11,292. You have the option of either paying quarterly or annually. If you pay annually, you get a 2% discount, so that would reduce it to $11,066.16. So in a nutshell, those are the coverages that we have proposed, and see if you have any questions.
Okay, not to be contrary now, but one, why do we need this? And if we do, are we going to need it for every toll project? And if that's the case, why not on the loop, the inner loop?
I think I maybe answered some of that. As we're actually operating this particular facility as the toll operator, if there is an accident on this facility and we were brought into it, that covers this. And then we've also got a fair amount of equipment out there, electronic equipment, all the toll equipment that is covered on this schedule as well, that if there was a catastrophic loss due to flooding or whatever the case may be, we'd be responsible to replace, and that's fairly high dollar equipment. Did I get the question right, Mr. Tejas?
Yes, sir.
So only if we manage managed lanes, we need the coverage, right?
That's correct.
The reason we don't do it on the inner loop is because we don't manage that at all.
That's correct.
If something happens to that equipment, it's a TxDOT issue, not our issue?
That's correct.
Okay.
How was the $3 million arrived at?
These figures were arrived at through reviewing the other regional mobility authorities and their existing operations and following what they're using. Well, and
We have a river, and for the river, there's a fault. Nothing's really happened currently, but I know, is that good enough or what?
and that's why we have the earthquake and flood coverage, whereas other regional mobility authorities have not included that. So that's why we did that, because of our unique location. So our coverage is actually more because of that specific instance.
This is also an annual policy. Should the board decide a year from now or 2 years from now to include additional coverages or exclude coverages, those decisions can be made at that time. Is that correct?
Yes, in fact, you can do it at any time during the course of the year. You can make changes.
With the proximity to the river, the flood insurance, and in regards to some of the heavy rains, Mr. Tejas expressed a little concern with the additional cost of that. I felt that it was absolutely required. It was a low price of insurance for the extensive amount of equipment that's out there that wouldn't be covered otherwise. Any other questions? With that, is there a authorization on, is there a motion to approve item 7? Is there a second? All those in favor? All those opposed? Item 7 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 8, it is the update, discussion, and action on Phase 1 of a proposed bike share program. I'm glad to see this back on our agenda, Mr. Tejas. It's hopefully it's here to stay.
Right. That's the idea. So this item, as the chair mentioned, deals with bike share again. Just to give you a little bit of background, the bike share program went back to the Metropolitan Planning Organization for their November meeting, November 1st. As you'll recall, the MPO had approved various versions of the bike share program. The last version was a $2 million program. As you'll also recall, there were some issues in terms of the access to the federal funding for that particular proposed program. So what has happened was that I believe it was in October, there was a meeting between TxDOT, the MPO, and the Federal Highway Administration. And in fact, Representative Pickett was there as well to try to iron out the issues that were outstanding and try to get a program up and running. So what was brought back to the Metropolitan Planning Organization on November 1st was a revised program, and the governing board of the MPO actually spent some time arguing the policies and the amounts and that sort of thing. And what they ended up with is what you see as part of your backup for this particular item. The Transportation Policy Board approved a $720,000 Phase 1 of the bike share program. So they were, and in fact this is a big point, they were quick to note that this is being considered a Phase 1. It's not considered a pilot program, whereas the pilot program would simply be a test almost. They're saying this is Phase 1. They want to see a Phase 2. They're committed to seeing this move forward. In fact, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, through their executive director, identified some funds that could help us with expansion planning in the future. So again, this is Phase 1 they approved for $720,000, which includes the original $400,000 that we've talked about in the various stages, which has $276,000 in Rider 8 funds, which come from the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, $24,000 from UTEP. It's got $100,000 from the City of El Paso. That gets you the $400,000, and the remaining $320,000 will actually come from the federal funding source of Surface Transportation Program. So that collectively makes up your $720,000. What they're looking to see these funds used for includes $400,000 for infrastructure. Those are the bikes, the stations, and that sort of thing. And then $320,000 has been approved for operations and maintenance for the first 2 years, which is great news. So that'll give us some time to get this thing up and running, and more importantly, to get it to be able to sustain itself. Of course, the RMA was identified as a project sponsor and the implementing agency. Thankfully, though, we have the City of El Paso as a strong ally in this, and they've been really helpful to date, trying to identify ways to get this project up and running. And lastly, I would note that TxDOT voiced no objection to this phased approach or the proposed use of the federal funds in this instance. So I think we've got everybody on board, and I think likely this will be the last time we come to you all with a varied version. Now, you'll see me before you as soon as next month potentially amending agreements. If you'll recall, we signed an agreement with the City of El Paso and the MPO. That was for the $2 million program, so we'll have to amend that to bring it back down to the $720. And there are various other steps that we'll be taking between now and implementation that I'll bring before you all. But I'm excited to start this program. One other, I think, important note that I should mention is that because the program has dropped from a $2 million program down to a $720,000 program, we've been informed by the MPO that it will require a TIP amendment, a Transportation Improvement Program amendment, and then also at the state level, a state amendment as well. Now, unfortunately, that state amendment process will take us all the way through January or February of 2014, which means then that we don't actually have access to the federal funds, which is the $320,000, until January, February. But more importantly, because the local funds, the $400,000, are actually a match to the federal funds, we really don't have access to those either. So that means, in essence, between now and January or February, I'll be working with City of El Paso staff. Downtown Management District is also interested in this program, UTEP and other folks, through staff time to try to get this thing as close to ready as possible so that when the federal funds become available, hopefully in January but possibly February, we'll be able to hit the road running, and we'll have the vendor on board, and they'll be able to start dropping bikes shortly thereafter. The reason why all of that is important is that the Rider 8 funds, you may recall, have a deadline associated with them. We have to provide a report to the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality in terms of results of the program by the end of May. So we've got a very tight timeline in there between the January and February when the funds become available and when the report is due at the end of May. So that's why I say there's going to be a lot of upfront work that we'll be doing, myself and the city and the MPO and DMD and other stakeholders to get this thing ready. So like I say, when those funds become available, we'll be able to move very quickly.
There will not be, Mr. Tejas, I believe, any significant outlay of RMA funds prior to the federal and local funds becoming available. Is that correct?
I do not anticipate any. Of course, if there are, I'll come to you all first. But at this point, I really believe we can pull it off with just staff time.
And that's fine. Just if there are any potential funds going to be required, the board needs to know. I'm a little concerned with how this project has been on and off, that I don't want to put any funds forward and potentially have this project not go forward.
I agree.
We are just the implementing agency, is that correct?
Well, we are the implementer and the operator, so we have to determine how the operations will work. We have to determine if there's going to be a vendor, how all of that will work.
Now, we have funding for 2 years. In year 3, if there's a funding shortfall, are we creating a potential financial liability for the RMA for that funding, or how is the agreement currently set up?
Well, the agreement is currently set up so that the funds come to us. So if we stop the bike share program, which would be highly unlikely and not recommended, we could do that to say, for example, if we couldn't find a sponsor and the program could not fund itself in the 3rd year, we could simply stop the program, which I certainly wouldn't recommend. But between now and then, I can tell you we're going to be working very hard to develop sponsors, private and public as well, so that this project is not only successful in the phase 1, but more importantly, the expansion as well.
I believe we're going to also have kind of an expedited procurement process, potentially, using some of the buy boards that are available to us. Is that correct?
Correct. Well, what we're looking at, the city unfortunately doesn't have any buy boards that have access to bike share options. But what we've looked at are interlocal agreements with current other municipalities in the state of Texas. Fort Worth has a bike share program. Austin has a bike share program that they're unrolling soon. Fort Worth, other cities have bike share programs in place that we could access through an interlocal agreement. So we're looking at that option right now. The city originally thought they had an interlocal in place that we could tap into, but apparently that was never executed. So we're looking at the other alternatives to do
And you'll
the same
bring that
thing.
to the board whenever those are prepared?
Absolutely. I'd have to, yes, sir.
Any other questions from the board?
We're back on schedule, even though it's going to be pretty hard for us. And I am. I'm surprised and disappointed that the CMAQ funds were taken out. But like the chairman states, that's not our place to argue that. I would have loved to have been there. But nonetheless, maybe in the future we can access those funds if the MPO changes its mind. But the other second question or comment is, at one point, Fort Bliss was going to join us. What's the status of that?
So I'll be reaching out to Fort Bliss now that we actually have a program and seeing what they'd like to do, because the ideal scenario that I was proposing to you all is that we actually have several nodes. We'd have a node at UTEP, we'd have a node in downtown, we'd have a node at Fort Bliss at the outset. That way our money goes farther, Fort Bliss's money goes farther, and we all pool that and come in, and we could the RMA could operate the entire thing. So I'm still hopeful that Fort Bliss is interested, and I'll be reaching out to them very soon to see if we can roll them into this program as well. Similarly, UTEP is included in this as well. So it's the same program, just on a smaller scale.
Questions or comments from Mr. Tejas? With that, is there a motion to adjourn? All those in favor? All those opposed? We are adjourned at 10:43 a.m. on November 13th, 2013. Thank you for your time today.